Today we're going to talk about barley wines and big beers. It's the winter months and it's cold outside, and a big full body beer just tastes great when it's like that. We currently have our very first Cute Fat Kid on tap, which is a traditional American barley wine. We also have 3 other versions of our Cute Fat Kid available in cans. We have Cute Fat Kid 3, which was Chunk. It's an Imperial stout with peanut butter and chocolate. We have Cute Fat Kid 4, You're Killing Me Smalls, which was a double red ale. And our current Cute Fat Kid is a double brown ale called Jackson Brown and our Little Chubbies. So with the Jackson Brown double brown ale on tap and also Cute Fat Kid 1 on tap, I invite you all to come down and try these beers and take a few of them home with you. What we're going to do next is we're going to bring in the head of brewing operations and do a little tasting of these beers. The head of brewing operations, Jeff Browning Jr. and my son, and we're going to be talking about the different types of vintage beers and beers that you should lay down for a period of time and beers that you shouldn't lay down. I frequently joke that Jeff's the only 30-year-old with 30 years of experience. We used to do a lot of vintage beer tastings back at the house. Do you remember those, Jeff?
Yeah.
A lot of the old-time beer guys used to come over and we tried different things. These beers in front of us go from the Thomas Hardy's, which is 1994, all the way up to a beer that was canned just a week ago. And we're going to go through a few different things and sample our Cute Fat Kid 1, which has been in the keg for 5 years. And there's a lot of different things you should look for. First of all, when it comes to a vintage beer, you need something with a fairly high alcohol. The alcohol content is a preservative, and that will help hold the beer together. What you don't want to do is lay down all of these double IPAs, Imperial IPAs, and the beers that have a lot of particulate and cloudy matter, because that will separate out and really change the flavor of the beer. Jeff, we have the Cute Fat Kid 1 in our hands. Have you given it a taste yet?
I have.
What do you think?
It's good. Shows its age a little bit. It's still a lot of dark fruits, this original sweetness, kind of thinner body, but that comes with age. Overall, it aged pretty well.
What you look for in a beer that you're laying down is for those deep fruit flavors to start coming forward, for the harshness to have fallen away, and just a mellowness, a smoothness that will come with aging any type of high-end fine product. This particular barley wine, I think, is aging very well, and I think it's still got some legs. I think it could probably age for several more years. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Not every beer should be laid down like that. Just in front of us, we have the Bigfoot, and this is from 2017. Now, Sierra Nevada has been doing a barley wine for decades and decades, and there's a lot of people that have this beer laid down for every single lineage of it. These beers, in my opinion, start to break down after 3 years, and by 5 or 6 years, really become a shadow of what they were meant to be. These beers were meant to be have hot bitterness, and when that falls away, it creates a walnut flavor and an oxidized woodiness that really doesn't kind of hold it together. What I do have is some other types of laydown beers, Imperial Stouts. So I have a 2007 Imperial Stout Trooper before the fuzzy nose and mask had to be put on it because of the cease and desist that was sent to them. And this is actually signed by Rob Leonard. Now, I have opened many of these and have every single vintage. I find some vintages better than others, but Imperial Stouts, if brewed properly, can last up to 10 years and longer. This one needs to be opened, I think, and be tasted. Jeff, what was the oldest Imperial Stout you've tried?
That's a good question. I don't know. Had some beers older than me.
Well, when you were a child, there was a lot of beers around the house that were older than you. In Brewport's effort to support local, I want to point out that you can get vintage beers at any of our local breweries. I was over at New England Brewing Company recently, and they just released this year's Imperial Stout Trooper. This is Overlord from Alvarian Brewery, and this is from 2018. And I'm looking forward to really trying this beer. I have not had this one yet. It's been aging in my cellar. Also, we have the barley wine from Aspetuck Brew Labs, and signed again by the owner brewer, Peter. I haven't tried this one either. All of these beers are going to be available for you guys to decide which one we should open. We go all the way back to the Grim Reaper from the old Wyndham Brewing Company, which has been out of business for over 20 years. And a little piece of information, the brewmaster for this particular bottle was Dave Wallner from the Willimantic Brewing Company. So there are many bottles of this out there, and I know Dave has some as well. We have opened them together. It is getting a little thin, and if you do want a bottle of it, I do recommend that you open it as soon as possible. Now, we're gonna open one of these right here and now, and we're gonna taste it in front of you guys. Jeff, what beer do you think we should open?
I'm gonna go with the Imperial Stout Trooper. Big fan of New England Brewery. Worked there for a few years, way back in the day, so that's my pick.
Awesome. So we're gonna open up a 2007 Imperial Stout Trooper before the glasses and fuzzy nose had to get put on the label. So give it an open, Jeff. All poured, and you can see it has very little head. I'm gonna throw it right to Jeff and take a sip and give us your honest opinion of a 13-year-old Imperial Stout Trooper.
Well, 13. I don't know, 17 years old. I can tell from appearance, carbonation is kind of low. There's no head, just from appearance. It smells very sweet, maybe a little roasted coffee, caramel. The sweetness is still there, but the taste, not so much bitter anymore. Kind of thin body, kind of falls back with this little bit of roastiness towards the end that kind of lingers. Overall, I think it's good. Wish the carbonation was still there, but it's to be expected for a beer this old.
Now, I will start with the fact that probably aging this beer 13 years allowed it to go past its prime. With that said, I do believe it's holding up quite nicely. It no longer has carbonation. There's a little bit of oxidation, which happens when the carbonation drops off, but all of the bones of the beer are still there and worthy of drinking. I mean, we could easily drink this, in front of a fire all day, all night. This is a perfect example of when should you open up bottles of your vintage beers. I recommend to people who ask me the question, how do I start my own beer cellar? I say you should always buy 2 or 3 or more bottles of a particular vintage beer. One should be opened relatively soon, and you assess that beer by the bottle that was opened. If it's amazing when you open it, drink the other 3 bottles. Because it's great right now, and it probably will be it's at its peak for your particular flavor profile. If you open it and it's harsh and it's got some edges, you could say, okay, I think this beer will do well over the next 2 or 3 years. And 2 or 3 years down the road, you open another bottle. If it's doing well, keep giving it more and more time. The moment you get to a point where you think that beer is as good as it's going to get, or it's dropped off just a little bit from your last tasting, it's time to put that in your refrigerator and make it ready for you to drink with your friends. So when you're putting beers down, buy a couple of different ones, sample them regularly, and remember, beer is the most social thing on the planet. It gives us the ability to share it, in this case with my son and with you guys, and start a discussion, and you guys decide what makes a great vintage beer for you. Cheers. So as you can see, barley wines come in lots of different colors, shapes, and sizes. Vintage beers are set up to be aged with the high alcohol. What I want you guys to do is pay attention over the next several months, because my good friend, Dr. Terry Foster, has his Barley Wine and Strong Ale book coming out. It will be on Amazon. I believe it's coming out in September. He'll cover beers just like these from the local breweries, as well as international products as well. So keep an eye open for that.